Say the word, Ben. To press my button, I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Saline Area Schools of December 10th, 2024. Standing as you are able, will speak the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Dr. Brad Gerby.
No doctor, but I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I would like to take a moment as board president to make some special recognition. Now, sadly, I don't have a speech prepared. That's a good thing, perhaps. But I would like to recognize two of our trustees who are rolling off. And in the past, I don't think we've ever really done plaques or awards or trophies or plexiglasses. But I'd like to start with Susan Eastep, who came on the board in 2019. I do remember when I first met you at the forum in the Saline Middle School. Nerve-wracking event for sure, but you held your own well and garnered plenty of votes, and it's been a pleasure serving with you. So if you could, this is something for your living room or your office or wherever.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. We don't have a photographer here.
Thank you so much.
And I do have one other plaque because we have one other board member who's rolling off. Jenny Miller from 2021 to 2024. Jenny has historically received more votes than any other candidate ever. And I went back 20, 30, 40 years, and nobody had quite as much support as Jenny. And I just want to say, had you run again, I'm sure every one of those votes would have come in, plus some again. So Jenny, you've been remarkable on the board. I want to thank you very much. This year you're serving as secretary, and were you in other leadership positions as well?
Policy chair.
Policy chair, oh, okay, great. 2 policy chairs rolling off. So Jenny Miller, thank you so much. And now on to the fun. The whole meeting's fun. Public comment. A member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes or request to be scheduled on the agenda at a future meeting. Please note, students will be given first priority to speak on any topic. The first public participation portion of the meeting is limited to 1/2 hour, 30 minutes, normally, and limited to agenda items only. A second public participation section will be offered at the end for any other comment. Individuals addressing the board should take into consideration rules of common courtesy, and the public participation portion of the meeting can't be used to make personal attacks against board members, district employees, or students. We do have a student. Are you ready? Okay, Elise Zhu. Jew? Elise Jew.
Oh, all right.
You can talk right, you can drop the mic a little more forward.
Good evening, school board trustees. My name is Elise Chu, and I am a first grader at Woodland Meadows. Since I started last year as a kindergartner, I have learned so much from my teachers and made lots of really good friends. I love my community at Woodland Meadows. I was really sad when my parents told me that I might not be able to stay at my neighborhood school with all my friends and teachers. For my third grade year, they said I might have to go to a totally different school with all different teachers, different classrooms, and different kids. I really don't want to do that. If I have to go to a different school for third grade, that would mean I would be at 3 different schools. In 3 years, a different school every year. This makes me feel sad and scared. That is too much change for me. My community is so important to me and my friends, and I'm scared that my community will be broken apart. I might be little, but I am important. Please listen to me. I love Woodland Meadows. Please do not take my neighborhood school away from me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elise. We usually don't comment, but that was very well done. Thank you. We have 3 older children. Amy Tesselin, followed by... We have 3 adults now. Amy Tesselin, followed by Tiffany, and followed by David Hayward. Just so you know the order.
Thank you, Saline Area School Board. I had the pleasure of attending several of the policy meetings where the policy committee discussed options to address the new federal guidance around Title IX effective as of August this past summer. I see that TRUN Policy 2264, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education, is being proposed to address these changes. It's good to read the proposed policy in full, because when you're in the meetings, you don't get to see. Following the meeting in August, I asked how past situations when parents have publicly informed the district of sexual harassment and assault incidents would be addressed with this new guidance. Sadly, in our society, these are not isolated incidents, and hopefully that will not happen tonight. In addition to all the training that staff have been receiving, I was very pleased to learn from Betty Yankee at the last policy meeting in November, that she and Title IX coordinator Carol Diglio were working on a tab for the homepage of the Saline Area Schools website. This Title IX tab is now visible at the bottom of the homepage, and it explains different Title IX violations and states that all staff, students, and community members who believe a Title IX violation has occurred should report or file a complaint with the Title IX coordinators. Thank you to Betty Yankee and Carol Diglio for this great work in creating more transparency and better communication about this process. As this is the last board meeting of the year, I'm going to take my time to thank all the trustees for the Saline Area School Board for all their extensive work this year. I will never understand all the things that you do, and I'm sure you don't hear our appreciation enough, but thank you. My last and most important thanks goes especially to Trustee Estep for the courageous and capable work she has done for the last 6 years in championing the human rights of all students from lower socioeconomic status, students with disabilities, students of different races, gender identities, sexual orientations, and really all students. Thank you. You will be missed.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was me or if it was my husband. Okay. Hello, good evening. So first, I'd like to reiterate my question from the last board meeting. When is it that Neola stopped writing guidelines? Because we were told that, you know, we were not following protocol and policy by writing guidelines, and were publicly admonished for doing so. So I'd like to know, after hearing that suddenly they aren't and haven't been, exactly when that stopped and for how long they did. Second, and to something far more important and dear to my heart, Trustee Eastep, thank you for having endless and fearless dedication in the face of adversity and being willing to be the lone voice for children of all backgrounds, regardless of its socioeconomic status or gender identity or racial issues. You have always come through with the best of your abilities to do so, to your own detriment. I am so grateful to have been able to lend any help and support that I've been able to do, and there's no words for the amount of effort you have put in to your community. I'd like to say that you will be greatly missed, but instead, I'm going to say welcome to the outside. Welcome back to the outside of the tent, Susan.
Susan, I'd like to add my own words to the last two speakers in thanks and gratitude to all the service that you've done in the last 6 years on the board. The community is losing a huge asset in you, but the community is also gaining a great asset, because I know that you'll rise as high as you want to go in public service, and it was a huge honor for me to have been able to serve as a colleague of yours, however briefly. And thank you very much for all the service that you've done.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward. We're at the point in the agenda where we must approve the agenda. Items can be added or deleted from the agenda, or the items changed at the request of an individual board member or the superintendent, and we must approve this before proceeding. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
Motion, Miller?
Thank you. It's her last meeting. She's going to be moving a lot. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, 5-0. Thank you so much. We have an agenda. We have several action items. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt policy 2264, new, the Troon edition, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities, as recommended by the policy committee.
Motion, Miller?
JM.
Yeah, I'll support it.
Thank you very much. We'll open the floor to discussion at this point. And in your packet, what page is that? Someone is looking at it for me.
Goes for a while.
Yeah.
This is the first page, I mean.
The first page is page 6, I believe. The
Okay.
memo's on page 5.
Thank you.
So I guess I'll just say, we've discussed this now at a couple of meetings, and Carol has been an expert at kind of updating us on why choosing to add this policy to our policy catalog is the best choice, and that it aligns with the training opportunities and the forms that the district is using through Troon. So that is why the policy committee put it forward, and that's what we discussed the last time. So if anyone has any specific questions, I'm sure Carol can answer them too, but that is kind of in a nutshell.
Thank you. And this is the second discussion we've had on this tonight then? Right.
It's actually, we discussed it at 2 meetings, but this is the, that is the timer for the last speaker, but I guess I said it again. We discussed it at 2 meetings and went back and did some more work around it. Carol came back, gave us some answers to some questions, and then we brought it back again at the last meeting, and so
Okay.
today it is an action item.
Susan Esip.
Yeah, couple things. So, for one, I think it says that the board received the Neola version, and I requested that and don't remember receiving it. I don't know if other board members did. So I haven't been able to review that. And I guess along those lines, the format is very different. You know, this is my last meeting, but I would like to see, I guess, this put into the Neola version as to what we're actually approving. And I would say, like, it's multiple pages under, like, A, B, C, and each section sort of being its own. I know that the section with Title IX, we have listed the Title IX designated coordinators. Like, does that whole Part B come out? Because that's going to be removed. So what's that going to look like with structuring it? So that's one question. And then my other component that I was reviewing and really brings concern for me is that, let me find it. Sorry, this is very long. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the bottom. It's still going. Okay. So it is the section. It basically says that this policy supersedes all policies dealing with this topic. And so that, considering that we don't currently have through policy, and this is going into part of the Neola policy, that really has a lot of red flags for me. And so I don't know if there was any, because I know we do have a lot of policies, like, for example, it mentions, race, disability in here as well. So I think about a lot of policies that it was, because it was like, if another policy gives like extra rights, it doesn't matter that this policy supersedes all of it.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, but from what I understand, the reason why that portion of the policy is written, that it supersedes previous policies, is because this is in alignment with the most current changes to Title IX law. And so if there are policies that are not in alignment with this, they would not be in alignment with those federal laws. Is that? And in terms of, do you want to address how the names are being, since we're not including specific names in the policy, but the names will be on the website? Do you want to address that piece? I think the reason why we did that, we did this back, I don't know, you can remember, but we did it back, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. We took the names off the policy and then
just
put
put the
them just on the
titles.
website and put the titles because of personnel changes, so that it didn't have to be, the policy didn't have to be redone every time. And then lastly, in terms of formatting, when we adopt a new policy, they all go to Neola regardless of the formatting, and Neola formats them for us. It's a part of the catalog production. Is that, Betty, am I understanding that correctly?
Okay, so you're just eliminating B and not, okay. I thought it was not specific to before August 1st, but I'll find the language while you're talking about it.
I think, Ms. Miller, I think you answered everything that you had asked.
I'd add that one of the important reasons why we felt it was important to go with the Troon policy is because they are keeping up with what seems to be monthly changes to what's going on as the Title IX updates are getting fleshed out. And Neola, quite frankly, has not been keeping up at the level we feel they need to be for this specific policy. And in addition, because we need to use legal guidance quite often, if not all the time, when we are looking at Title IX situations or cases, so to speak, we're always consulting with Troon anyway. So for this policy, it makes more sense to be using the Troon version, and then we would be consistent with the guidance, and they're going to default to the law, and that keeps changing. And so that's why there's motivation for us to use the Troon version for just this policy.
And Carol, you can maybe tell us more in detail, but they've been out in front of this where we have not gotten the same from Neola.
Exactly, very much so. And if you watch the, how they had offered training, they would offer training like 3 trainings at a time. So I was able to say, if you did not have the time or could not fit in your training, here are 3 more dates. And to date, we have all of our administrators trained at this point. And it was because they did so many offerings, and really the transparency and the step-by-step policy that they provide allows us to, it's a very, I've mentioned before, a very tedious process. We don't want to miss a step. We don't want to delay the process. And so this is very transparent, and I've been working behind the scenes with Lindsay, who is going to be our Title IX coordinator. And in the case that I'm not available, she is also there. And then with Jackie and Robin, so if this was to be passed, we'd be able to get everything updated and current really quickly. So we have been, this is a great tool on top of a very good policy.
And just to reiterate, in addition to the policy that they've written that is current, that is in alignment with the current law, and they're keeping a pulse on that as things change, but they also have updated their forms that we can use for reporting, and the training is being continually offered. And have they mentioned, like, if there are updates to the laws, how that will impact future trainings?
They don't need to, because they're so current with this. We get updates from Troon. They do Troon blasts. I'm part of that mail. Steve is part of that mail. They're very good about keeping us current. If you look at how Betty put this in, she was very wise. All the blue highlights are not only the pieces of the policy, but they are identifying the form that would be connected to that. So in essence, we're getting a board policy and we're getting our administrative guidelines at the same time.
I found that section. Thank you, Carol.
Sure.
I found the language, and I don't think it's what you all had mentioned. Oh, I don't. The page of it. It's under definitions. I had to find it on a screenshot that I did earlier about it. So. Yeah, no. Wait. I'll read it. It's in there. So the policy series, which is the, what did I say, A through H in different sections, supersedes any other non-discrimination, anti-harassment, and non-retaliation policy to the extent another policy grants different rights regarding the topics covered in this policy series controls. So that, to me, and just another thing that kind of popped up, that I think when you see this policy that you may have to go and maybe make some changes that align with our current policy. For example, it was saying, like I had read that if there's a complaint against the superintendent, you go to the board president, and then if there's a complaint against the board president, you go to the vice president. So just making sure that that's all in alignment, even the nitty-gritty pieces, with current Neola policy. So taking a fine eye and going through that. But I'm very, very concerned about that section.
So Vice President Stebbin actually did raise this, and it's one of the things that she has mentioned that the policy committee might be working on the complaint process anyways. We've learned some things this year. So she had already raised that she was hoping the policy committee, and she has some revisions that she'd like to offer, and that's on the agenda for the new policy committee to consider when they resume in January.
Yeah, that was a small
Okay.
example.
I was just answering to that one.
Yeah.
She had caught that and
Okay.
was already in tune with that.
So does any, just interpretation
I'm just wondering if you could be more specific about what you're concerned, which policy you're specifically concerned about this superseding, because this seems like it's pretty, it lays out non-discrimination fairly stringently. So it seems like this would be, I'm just a little confused as to which policy this superseding would cause harm.
well, I don't have time to go through the multiple policies.
No, I'm just, like, this one.
Any
if
policy that's Neola, that it's superseding and we're not even sure about
But this
that.
is due to law, right? So it's like, this is, I don't understand how we could have another policy that went against Title IX law. So I'm not asking you to go through I'm just trying to understand the specifics of your concern.
Well, there's Title IX law, which is, there's the law, right? But there's structures that are different, right? Like I mentioned, the complaint structure. And if it's superseding, for example, if it's going over federal law, well, we have, Elliott Larson, where that's mentioned, and like in our transgender students policy. And if, there's something like very specific that's not in this policy language, I feel like that gets thrown out the window. I don't know, like.
Elliott Larson is mentioned in this.
Yeah,
in
it
this-
is, and
in this policy, in groups of policies.
Because I know when I was policy chair and there was Title IX changes, is that 2020, possibly? And there was like 5+ policies that we had to change, because in each section, there's the non-discrimination, anti-harassment. And so
some of that linking we're doing right now from the Title IX perspective. So the stuff that we have in draft is waiting for this to be approved, should it be approved this evening, and then we do the linking behind the scenes as it pertains to non-discrimination, anti-harassment, Title IX, Elliott Larson, and so on. But I see your point, and we can, this part of it, it's hard because when Title IX, if there's a violation of Title IX, it covers a lot of things, right? But there can still be a violation of something, but it doesn't fall under the umbrella of Title IX. So there can still be non-discrimination or anti-harassment. There could be harassment happening, but it doesn't fall under the umbrella of Title IX. So I believe, Ms. Eastep, that this process is much more cleaner and transparent than current processes that we may have had. And the work that we're doing and we would like to really lift is the outreach in the sense that we've changed and will update our parent resource to pull some of these out specifically, so we're not searching around. I thank Amy for acknowledging our tab on the front page. We don't have buttons in there yet because we're waiting for the policy to be passed, but not only will you be able to pull that Title IX tab up, we'll also have links that will bring you directly to the resources. So I think it's improving transparency in how we meet the needs of the community. And the way we prefaced it is, if I'm a parent or a child or a member of the community and something like this may have happened, we don't want people to be in a stressful situation and not able to find the right form or how to get started. And I think when it's all up and running and the transparency of it, I think you would find it much more user-friendly and meeting the needs of people in some of their most high-need times. We don't want it to be difficult. So it's really a much more specific. I don't see it going backwards, but I think I understand what you're saying, and it could be where we do searches of this, but they do live under these same umbrellas.
Well, just real quick, it says non-discrimination, anti-harassment, and I know within the policy, it even talks about race discrimination. So overall, I'm not arguing like how you're saying it'll be simpler and make your job and hopefully, like you said, the access, because it hasn't been there before. And thank you, and Betty, for making that more transparent on the website. And, I think making sure that everybody knows that they're a mandated reporter, right? And so those are important components. It's just, again, I'm worried about this language, and I don't know if we could take it out, possibly. But yeah.
I think I understand the concern, and possibly a solution is that we have Troon cross-reference some of our potentially conflicting Neola policies with this once we adopt it, because I've asked them to do that before, that even though, yeah, they're familiar with their own policy manual, they also know Neola policy because we often contact them and they will say, okay, your policy, this says you need to take this step. So they're familiar with Neola policy too. And I think that would satisfy your concerns, Trustee Eastep, that we don't want this adopted Troon policy to have places in it where it's contradicting other cross-referenced policies like non-discrimination, anti-harassment. I think that's what you're suggesting.
Yep. Yes, thank you.
And we could have them do that.
And I would prefer that we do that ahead of time, coming back to the table, but I won't be at the table. And, I understand, I wish all of this was passed in August. I mean, I think Neola sent their stuff in June. I had to look it up because I didn't have it, but some other boards publish their stuff publicly. So, I know that was in June. I think we did update with the date exception, so pre-August, correct?
This didn't change until August 1st.
Yeah.
So this was the new law, and then we lost
Yeah.
our Neola rep. And then there was some other things that took precedence, which we totally understand, but we see a sense of urgency for this so that we're update and aligned.
Yeah, I saw the urgency a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah, and that our staff have full access to everything, including our community, to make sure our community has access.
Dr. Gold?
So just on the race, just because the community can't see what we're seeing. So in terms of the concern about race, it gives as an example of unlawful harassment. Unlawful harassment may include, but is not limited to, race, color, or national origin harassment, which is prohibited by Title VI and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Michigan Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. Race, color, or national origin harassment is unwelcome conduct based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, or national origin that creates a hostile environment or becomes a condition of continued employment. Race includes traits historically associated with race, including but not limited to hair texture and protective hairstyles. Race, color, or national origin harassment may take many forms, including slurs, taunts, stereotypes, or name-calling, as well as racially motivated physical threats, attacks, or other hateful conduct. Under this policy, harassment based on ethnicity, ancestry, or perceived ancestral, ethnic, or religious characteristics will be considered race, color, or national origin harassment. So I guess what I was just trying to get at, not reading all of them, but just so that the public or whoever's watching doesn't think that, I was just trying to get to the specifics of what kinds of override, because that, since you mentioned race as an example, that is somewhat reassuring to me that it has a pretty broad definition of racial harassment that references the Civil Rights Act and Michigan Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. So I don't know if we have any policy on race that's more stringent than that. I understand like the theoretical concern, but in terms of whether or not we vote for it and move it forward tonight, it has a similar, I won't read the whole thing out loud, but just there's a similar section about disability that talks about the Michigan Persons with Disabilities Civil Rights Act. I only mention it because it's just, if we're worried about this that line about this policy overriding other policy, it is good to know what this policy includes. And that does give me some comfort about this policy overriding, since this policy does seem to be fairly stringent to my reading about defining.
Yeah, I mean,
forms
that's
of
consistent
harassment.
with law. I hope it would be.
I think
know.
I just wanted
like,
to reassure people who don't have this in front of us as to like what is in it.
Yeah, I think I brought up, and thank you, Superintendent Lotch, for kind of define what I'm trying to say, right? Kind of those inconsistency, with procedural or policies that we don't have that Throons may be referring to on their policies. So I just want to make sure that it's not messy. So.
I will make a note on the document that I'm going to share with President McVeigh about some of the policy items that are carryovers for the next policy committee. So I will make a note that perhaps one of the tasks in the new year would be to cross-reference potential policies for conflict with this new Title IX policy.
I think we have already asked the superintendent and Carol Diglio to do that exact thing, with the assumption that this is going to pass either tonight or in January. So the question seems to be, do we pass it tonight and deal with it that way and put it through the Troon process, which could take 2 months? I'm looking at Betty, sorry, 2 months perhaps before we finally get a Neola version.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay, well, then I misheard you earlier, sorry. All right, then, is it?
I said it. I haven't received it. That's what I said. The Neola version.
Okay. I thought it was in the last packet. I could be wrong then. So, good, thank you. Are there any more comments that people wish to make before we put this to a vote? No? Okay. Well then, the motion on the floor is to adopt policy 2264, the Troon edition, non-discrimination on the basis of sex and education programs or activities as recommended by the policy committee. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Great, thank you.
Aye.
Oh, that's you? All right, thank-
Absolutely.
All right, 4-1. Thank you very much. I'd like to enter and appreciate the conversation. It's complicated. And, oh, thank you, Carol, for. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the closed. That's you. You're on. Closed session minutes of November 12th, 2024, for the purpose of disciplinary action against a school employee, 8A of the Open Meetings Act. Are we doing both at the same time? I'd also like to entertain a motion to approve the closed session minutes of November 18th for the purpose of superintendent evaluation, 8A of the Open Meetings Act. Do we have somebody to recommend either or both?
I'll do it. Motion, Gerby.
Motion Gerby for both of them, sir?
Do you want a second while you're here?
I'll second both of those.
There you go. Brad, you just motioned for both of them. For those of you new to this, if you're AP Gov folks, we basically read this quietly and we don't share this with the rest of the public because this was a closed session. And so we keep the minutes within and then we approve them. All right, you got that? I'm sure your teachers told you all about it. All right, awesome. Thank you. Yes. Great then. All in favor of the November 12th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. And all in favor of the November 18th minutes, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Opposed? Hearing none. Great, thank you. We have minutes. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2024 final superintendent's evaluation as completed and read at the November 18th Special Board of Education meeting. The evaluation with ratings is reflected in the minutes of the November 18th Special Board of Education meeting minutes. We'll start with that, and then I've got something to say. Do we have someone who's...
Motion, oh,
Go ahead,
motion
Jen.
Miller.
Motion Miller.
I'll support it.
Brad Gerby seconds. Now, a copy of these notes and scores are in the packet, but I was going to just share them, second reading for the people in attendance tonight. The superintendent evaluation was done in 5 different categories, each with a different weighting, and I'll tell you a little bit about the weightings, but you'll hear a score from 1 to 3, 3 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and a very brief statement about what each of the categories is. So under governance and board relations with a weight of 20%, we have policy involvement as a 3, goal development was a 3, information was 2.5, materials and background for the board, 3, board questions, answering board questions, 2.5, board development, 3. Under community relations with a weight of 15%, the communication with community and with parents, 2.5, community parent input, 2.5, media relations, 3, district image, 3, approachability, 3. Under staff relations with a weight of 15%, staff input was 3, staff communications was 3, personnel matters with 2.5, delegation of duties, 3, recruitment, 2.5, labor relations and bargaining, 3, visibility in the district as a superintendent visible in the district, 3 out of 3. Business and finance with a weight of 20%. This was remarkable. Budget development and management, 3. Budget reports, 3. Financial controls, 3. Facility management, 3. Resource allocation, 3. A perfect score through there. Under instructional leadership with a weight of 30%. performance evaluation system, 3, building level leadership, 3, staff development, 3, school improvement, 3, curriculum, 3, instruction, 3, student voice, 2.5, support for students, 2.5, and professional knowledge, 3. They also, the MASB's tool, which is available on our website, also asks to a measure of student growth, which is weighted at 40%. We calculated and achieved a 2.83 out of 3. Progress is toward district side goals, a weight of 10%. We achieved 3 out of 3. And so overall, the rating was a 96% professional practice for the superintendent, 2.88 out of 3. Overall effectiveness was a 96%, 2.89, which is out of 3. And I would like to ask if there's any discussion about this at this point. Hearing none, I'd like to put it to a vote, please. All in favor? Yeah, you were great.
I was gonna
Yes.
mention, so the comments that you included from our discussion,
Yes.
where does that go?
I have a document which I shared with Betty, and I thought I had shared with
You
all-
did,
Okay,
and I read it, yeah,
that's where they go.
okay,
Yeah.
just,
I gave everyone, just to clarify, I gave everyone a summary of all the comments that we crafted into a package for those who, including the one board member who couldn't make it. And they were on the left column, and the superintendent's comments were on the right, and they are publicly available for the world to see.
okay.
So-
Alright. So my vote, I guess, is sort of based on, I don't feel that all board trustees' comments were put in there from the discussion, or were some board members, or, so yeah, I'm, that's part of my vote.
Okay, just a point of note, though, point of order. I shared everyone's comments with everyone, asked you all to give me any edits you might have if you didn't see your comments reflected, and I would have gladly changed them. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, 4-1. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Superintendent Lodge. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the allocation of funds for round 1, 24-25 of the CARES grant in the amount of $86,996.36 as submitted by Brian Puffer, Director of Community Education. This is your chance, Brad.
So moved, Miller.
Second?
Sure, me, Kirby.
Thank you. Mr. Puffer's in the audience tonight, just in case there are any questions, and there were a few. We do have a few questions from the board. Oh, if you have a statement, sure. You might be. Oh, and by the way, if I can interrupt for a second, we've also had a concern from a member of the public who wants the board members to remember to speak into the microphones, because occasionally online it gets the sound gets dropped. And
Sounds good.
thank you very much.
No problem. The CARES Advisory Board met on Wednesday, October 9th and Thursday, December 5th to review the 12 CARES grant applications submitted for round 1. We had a member of each grant there in the audience to answer any questions that the board members would have had for both rounds. The board approved or partially approved 10 of the 12 CARES grants, awarding a total of $86,999.36. They did deny 2 grants. The first one was the Saline Parks and Rec ADA door grant. They denied that due to the duplication. This was the same project that was funded back in 2014, 2015. So the board felt that it was just a duplication of a request from about 10 years ago. Second one was the Dementia-Friendly Organization of Saline. That one was denied because they requested mostly salaries, typically what the CARES Board does not approve, but they are encouraged to reapply in round 2 minus the salary request. If these are approved tonight, the available funds for round 2 would be $101,344.27. The deadline for round 2 is January 24th, 2025. Questions?
Sounded like you answered some of them. As you and I had a conversation about this earlier, some of the requests were on the vague side. And if anything gets fleshed out in the conversations, it would be helpful for the board to know, like in the comment section. So when the football team asked for additional funding to $20,000, we would like to know why. And you were, in private conversations, you were very clear with why.
Yeah, what we could do too is we only include the front page of the application, because it could be anywhere from 10 to 20 pages long. And so we can put the whole thing in there. I mean, make it a little longer, but it'll have all the information in there. So that's the board that goes over
Or
there.
perhaps if it's necessary.
Yeah,
It probably
yeah,
isn't necessary
yeah,
for all
or you
of
can
them.
ask me questions too. I'll be happy to answer. So.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Jenny Miller.
A number of the grants this time were for uniforms. There were at least a few there. And I just wonder, like, how often or how frequently we need to replace uniforms, how frequently. I know maybe the CARES grant hasn't always done it. Maybe it's come through athletics or through other streams of funding, but just wondered if that's a consideration.
I mean, it's come to the CARES board probably more since COVID than it ever has before, to be honest with you. I've been on it, or I've been in charge of it since 2008, and we really didn't have too many of them then, so it's been more so since COVID. You know, they look at it as an expanding program, and each CARES round is basically the grants are put up against each other that come through, but we have received quite a few lately for multiple sports teams.
So that might be something just in the future too, coordinating with boosters or other departments, administrators, just to try to see what the life cycle is of the uniforms, because they are substantial request, some to the tune of several thousands of dollars. So just wanting to make sure that we're being good stewards of that funding and considering those things. I think in the past we have shared that when, like, say, a varsity team gets new uniforms, that those then are passed down to replace, because for example, the middle school is the team. Those are the teams that typically have the oldest uniforms. So
Right.
it's nice for everyone to kind of get an update. So I do like that kind of flow through, but just wondered if we are keeping track of the
Oh, yeah.
condition and maintenance of the equipment and uniforms that
Well, we
have.
keep track of each CARES grant that comes through and what
Yeah.
they request, and so we know.
Perfect.
So we don't
That's
have.
what I wondered.
Yes, we have every CARES grant from 2001. So when somebody applies for, say, the football team applies for a CARES grant, we tell the CARES board they received a grant in 2003, 2006, and this is what they received it for, and stuff like that. So we're not awarding out CARES grants for uniforms every 2 years.
Great. That's exactly what I
And
was
the board
wondering.
does, they do recommend to anybody that gets approved uniforms, where are the uniforms going from varsity? Are they going down to the JV? Are they being used somewhere else?
Great. So
yeah.
we're utilizing
Oh,
all
yeah.
of those assets and
Definitely.
resources. Great. Thank you so
Definitely.
much.
You're
That's
welcome.
helpful.
Yeah.
So, just going back to the ADA doors, so did they stop working from 10 years ago? Because presumably if we've approved uniforms before, it's not that there's a hard and fast rule against
No, they,
approving the same thing twice, because,
yeah, they stop working, basically. They were approved 10 years ago and they were put in from a CARES grant. So they looked at it as a duplication of a grant, not existing. So it's what the CARES board determines. So that's a recommendation they bring to you. So if you guys decide we're not approving that, then you can not approve the grant.
no, I was just
Yeah,
curious. 'cause
that's just what
it seems like,
the board decided on. Again, I just mediate the board. I don't tell
Yeah.
them which to choose like that. So, yeah.
Maybe-
But I can definitely take those questions
yeah, I
you
was
have
going to say
back to the
maybe
board.
going back and saying if we're repeating updated or duplicate grants for sports teams, perhaps things that are compliant with access could also.
Yeah,
be
I
considered.
definitely bring, yeah.
so, I just was curious. And also, I mean, I understand that, like, parental pay-to-play can't cover all uniforms and buses and things like that, but people do, pay to play in the district, and there's boosters and other resources, so, I don't know. I was just curious, I guess, is not being someone who was at that meeting, how that all works.
Sure, and we used to have a board rep come to the meetings a long time ago, so if that's something they want to do again, we'd be more than happy to have that.
Yeah, I was wondering why we stopped doing that a couple years ago.
Well, yeah, CARES went away. We didn't do it for a couple of years after COVID, and I think it's just after that it didn't come back. So
Okay.
if you wanted to, I can, I mean, the days are public, but I can get them to you for sure if you guys wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a question, I guess the ADA doors as well. But I think that was kind of answered. Because I know the CARES, and it would be nice in the future. I guess when I came on the board, I was kind of like, what is this? Like, so I had to really do some research into kind of that being a community grant, right? And the partnerships with the city and community orgs and the school district. So it might be, I mean, I'm interested, I'll still be watching board meetings, but interested to maybe have a little more information on that so we can, you know, figure out more. And then I'm thinking about the people who are choosing, who are part of the CARES board. I don't think it's something that we approve, so I'm wondering how that process is kind of chosen.
Yeah, they apply for it and we approve it through their community, because we receive the money through the CARES millage that's approved through our department. And so we approve the community members, they apply, and then we decide. I interview and see who wants to be on the board.
Okay.
It's not a lot of people want to do it.
Yeah.
So, to be honest with you, so, yeah.
Hey,
so
maybe
we're
I'll
not choosing
apply.
for- Hey, there you go, there you go. And so. that's
Okay,
how we
thank
do it.
you.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're ready to put this to a vote. Please, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Not hearing none. Thank you very much,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Puffer. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 2025-2026 new courses to the Saline High School course catalog as submitted by Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Kara Davis. Those 5 are data science, grammar and composition, video game design and development, drone and ROV technologies, which is remotely operated vehicles, pilot program, and a pilot program, job shadowing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Doctor.
Support.
Thank you, Susan Eastep. Is there any discussion? Any questions for Kara Davis, who's anxious to answer every question?
I actually have one. I was just wondering about what percentage of ninth graders do you see as taking the grammar and composition class as opposed to like, you know, the current English 9?
Fast math, Trustee Gold. Right now, our secondary MTSS coordinator, Beth Russo, does the analysis of our student needs using some triangulation of data coming out of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade between NWA as well as their state assessments. And then their, and she's also exploring a diagnostic tool to use so that we can screen students. Any number I would give you right now would be a hunch based upon some of the at-risk numbers we've been using to inform our use of grant funding. I want to say somewhere in the to the tune of like 25 students the percentage, that's a guess based upon what I'm seeing right
So
there. It
like
really depends
one
what they're-
class section or maybe 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I, yeah, would that be taught, co-taught? Would that be taught by a general ed teacher or special education teacher?
Be a co-taught class.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thanks. That's a beautiful model.
Well, hearing no other questions, I'd like to put this to a vote, please. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you very much for the new
Thank you, Board.
courses. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the recommended award to MTD Construction in the amount of $2,106,000 for the Saline High School solar integrated roofing replacement as recommended by Executive Director of Operation Rex Clary.
Kirby.
Gerby,
Miller, second.
Miller. Are there any questions for Mr. Clary, who is hovering anxiously by the microphone? Once again, talking about solar panels.
Yes, so we've, hopefully this week, Thursday, we'll have our final inspection at the middle school, and we can start generating power maybe even as soon as Thursday afternoon. So that project is wrapping up this week. This is the replacement roofing, the reflective roofing for the solar integrated roof at the high school. This came in significantly under budget, a little over $1 million for this part of that project. Of the roofing, and then we also have one more bid for the solar panel installations. We've already purchased all the solar panels that are out here in these containers just to the north here of Liberty School, so they'll plan to be installed in this summer after the roof is installed. So,
Brad Gerby.
So I want to make sure that I say that I trust like you and I trust the thoroughness of your processes and all that. This number is significantly lower and even significantly lower than the other bids. I mean, by like $1 million plus. Do you have any idea, one, like what is our history of work with this company, MTD? And then second of all, do you know how they're that much lower than the rest of them?
they all have to use the same. Duralast is the spec. So the same material that we put on the middle school is the spec for the high school. MTD, I do have references for this. RTA did interview them. And of course, James Watson has a wealth of experience as far as doing schools. But he has 6 references that I can share with the board.
I assume you've done that work on
Roofing
that.
Technology and Associates does recommend them for this work. So they have worked with them in the past.
I ask the question. You know, I'm not going to try to question the heck out of this. It's just when you see it be that much lower, you think, are we getting a quality product, right?
Yeah.
So that's all. That's my only concern. So.
And so with roofing, we do pay our Roofing Technology and Associates, RTA, significant amount for their on-site everyday part of the construction process, doing the inspections. That was part of the agreement last year. They kind of bounced between middle school and Harvest last year. This year they'll focus on the high school because they'll probably have 2 crews going at the same time for that project. So.
Well, just so you know, you had me at significantly under budget. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Quick question from Jenny Miller.
I just wondered if there had been a reduction in the damage that had been occurring at the middle school since you made that announcement in your update, most
We
recent
haven't
update.
been back up there, but we will go up there.
Okay.
We'll look at it Thursday. How about during the inspection piece and see
Great.
what else is up there.
Great. So just to reiterate, if there are people playing golf
If you
in the
see people
vicinity
hitting
of the
golf
middle
balls at the
school,
middle
please
school, let
ask
me
them
know.
to stop.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Launching them, playing golf. However, golf balls are ending up on the roof.
Correct.
Please know that it's causing damage.
Yes. Please
Okay.
and thank you. We do have a camera now set up facing that direction, and so we can pick up movement, and we do get alerted. So.
Okay, great. I just, it would be nice. Maybe I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and maybe say people didn't know that was causing damage, but now they do. So please
Yes.
stop.
I mean, golfers are also our constituents here, so we want to be very careful. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. None? Thank you very much, Mr. Clary. Appreciate that. We have a scheduled report from Superintendent Lutch on the state of the district, and I understand you have some folks assisting you with this?
The entire core.
The entire core team. It is a great time to be a Hornet.
All right, Mr. Goodman's going to flip through the slides for us. So the purpose of this is to do a state of the district presentation to sort of summarize the year, accomplishments, and what are our next steps in direction of the district moving forward in a variety of different areas. And so ultimately, I'll present sort of the general overview. And I'm also going to take a communication slide because Jackie is actually at a conference with Jay Grossman regarding one of the things we're working on that's listed on her slide that I'll take. So we'll go ahead and start with, I think this is the end, Ben. I'm pretty sure you, okay. Yeah, like all the way up. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. So state of the district. So we'll go to the next slide. And I want to reiterate that the superintendent goals have not changed for the last 3 years. And I feel very confident that we are still working in all 4 of these goal areas and making progress in all 4 of these goal areas. And with that said, I mean, making progress means that we still have a lot of work to do in all of these areas, but we're eager to keep pushing forward and moving forward with all 4 of these areas. So the first one's academic rigor centered around the SAS compass. Kara Davis, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, is leading a process of revising the compass to make sure that it is reflective of the needs of the district, and that will also connect with our strategic framework. As it relates to culture of equity, we continue to talk extensively with our DEI specialist, Dr. Kerr, who is really doing an assessment of the district and determining what are some next steps that we need to do to continue to become a more equitable environment for all of our students, community members, staff members, and so forth. As it relates to civility and unity, we continue to talk about the need to bring together parties that may disagree about various issues, but we all need to keep at center that we all want to do what is best for our students, and that's reflective in this 3rd goal. And then finally, improving the district for the future. That's really about the bond issue, the $180 million bond that was recently passed. We feel very good about the direction under Director Clary's guidance and the progress we're making. And as you learned today, Rex is very good about keeping the budget in line and sometimes under budget. And that's important because then we can apply it to other components with the bond, as we actually always generally have more wants and needs than we can financially support. So feeling good about the direction of all 4 of these areas. Okay, Ben, if we can go to the next slide, and then Kara.
So because we have so many things to be proud of in Saline area schools, we limited ourselves to a handful of glows and maybe 1 grow so that we could highlight some of the great things happening in each of our departments. And so I want to start by saying that at this particular moment, we are currently leveraging over $1 million in grant funds to help support student needs, staff needs, and then operational needs in the district, from everything from professional development to tutoring to our DEI specialists to classroom libraries and to curriculum. We have put a lot of work in taking the funding opportunities that have been available to us and putting those to good use for our students and continuing to grow. We are in year 3 of our curriculum reviews, which is pretty amazing. And what that amounts to is that we formally incorporated over 12 courses or programs into the curriculum review cycle, which is really allowing us to get much more close to that vertical and horizontal alignment and that collective fidelity around a guaranteed viable curriculum that really makes a difference in ensuring that our students' collective experience from PK through 26 is working together to best ensure their success and help them thrive. We've had others mirror this work in terms of programs. So on top of that 12, what's been really neat to see over the last 3 years is how other course areas that we might not be focused on right now are taking advantage. We just had a group today here at Central Office working on some health curriculum that's outside of the sex ed work that we all do just to get that underground. So we're providing that support using some of the strategies and protocols that we're using in our formal curriculum review and supporting teachers as they see fit, whether it be a release time, after school, before school, with curriculum hours, or during the summer to continue to advance their core curriculum. Final highlight is that we are exploring AI. We certainly have dipped our toes into that. We started with a thinking collaborative and doing some soft pilots in the last couple of years and exploring which direction we wanted to go next. We ended up launching a summer flex PD called AI Oh My to really more formally introduce some of the AI opportunities that are available for our staff and started to participate in trials with different tools. One in particular that we're using and paying for right now for premium license is called Brisk. And we've done a lot of work, especially Kelly Woodman, Jay, and Jordan Hosher, in terms of visiting peer districts, looking at some of the resources that are out there in Michigan Virtual, and supporting teachers as they've begun to integrate this both professionally and with their students as well. And then an area that we're continuing to center as our work is just monitoring our results and making sure we're seeing the outcomes that we hope for as a result of these changes that we're making. So we introduced our data protocols a few years ago, and that is something that is always near and dear to the work that we do, so that we're making data-informed decisions. And so we're supporting those protocols across multiple layers in our system right now. Before I step aside, I do want to thank all of the people, from the members of TILT to the admin and the staff, the teachers who have partnered with me in all of this work. Progress 100% happens with a collaborative environment, and I feel really lucky to be part of such an outstanding group here at Saline Area Schools. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Julie Volker, and I'm the Executive Director of Special Education here in Saline Schools. I'm relatively new to my position, so I've been spending a lot of time this fall getting to know the teams and learning about our existing processes, and especially around data collection, and really constantly being amazed by the commitment of our special education teams. It is such a fantastic group of individuals that really collaborate in supporting students. And one of the three of the things that I really wanted to highlight are some of the community partnerships we're in the middle of making. So Unified Sports is a subsection of our Special Olympics, and we have been growing our unified sports teams over the years, but this year we've really gotten organized, and we have some amazing events coming up for our athletes. With our heritage team and our high school team, we actually are heading to the Little Caesars Arena on January 31st to compete on the big basketball court. We'll be competing against Dexter Community Schools, who also has an amazing unified sports team. And this Friday, we're actually heading to Dexter to compete on their court. So we're building these really strong partnerships with other districts in our community, and it's super exciting for our teams. The special education students are partnered with Gen Ed students as the collaboration for student athletes. Additionally, we've partnered in this fall with Buddy's Pizza, who was a great collaborator, and they helped us fundraise over $1,000 for our special ed department, and they've collaborated with us for another fundraiser coming up in February. And this Thursday, we have an annual holiday shopping trip where our students from the life skills classes partner again with some Gen Ed students. They're connecting partners, and we're headed out in the community to go to the mall and do some shopping and have lunch out. And we actually have 160 students participating this Thursday, which is super exciting for us. One of the areas that we're beginning to focus on is looking at some compliance monitoring that's coming from the state next year. Washtenaw County will be part of a cohort for compliance monitoring around least restrictive environment for our special education students. So we're really focusing in on training that in technical assistance. Monica and I are, Monica's the assistant director, focusing on training and technical assistance for all of our teams. We are working through monitoring IEPs and doing compliance checks, and then tailoring our technical assistance and training for what the staff needs. So it's big work, it's exciting work, but everybody's on board, and we have just the participation of the staff really reaching out to us and asking, for that assistance has been remarkable. So I'm looking forward to actually inviting in the state next year and having them, participate in reviewing our records and interviewing our staff and also our parents in the community to understand how we are approaching least restrictive environment for our students. Thank you. Questions? Do that at the end?
I think we do all that at the end. Thank you. Okay, Ben, next one.
So a couple of the things in finance I wanted to really highlight is fund balance. So we talk about fund balance sometimes and use percentages and dollars and things like that. I also put on the slide, it's about equivalent to 2.9 months of operation. So kind of to take it home to maybe relating it to your personal budgets or your finances at home, kind of gives you a little bit of reference. And the idea is that this fund balance, the real big thing is the next part of that paragraph, is that this allows us to have time to adjust, declining enrollment, right-sizing staffing, one-time funding coming on and off that we've seen in the last couple of years, and the reality of the flexibility to make changes in the district and, do our other goals that we're trying to get at that all of these other departments are talking about. We want to have the finances to support those goals and changes. The other piece of having that fund balance is we actually are not borrowing from the state. In general, we do the cash flow borrowing in past years. We have not had to do that since 2022. That also reduces, we don't have to pay interest on that money that we borrow just to make cash flow ends meet. And then the other big pieces that we're looking in the future and kind of keeping a really close eye on that affects our finances a lot is our student count. The state budget has kind of been a little wonky the last couple of years. In general, we haven't seen any necessarily long-term trends. And the ORS underfundedness and refundedness has been a lot of political moves that we've seen at the state level. And so those will really be affecting us in the next couple of years quite significantly, as well as the layers of the impacts that those decisions make.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Diglio. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. And I had an opportunity last month to talk about the hiring process, but want to focus on what HR is really zeroing in on, which is systems and transparency, and really to impact the entire district and most importantly, the employees' experience so that we can attract and retain the best employees for our students. In doing so, we've put some things in place, some really transparent documents called Whom to Ask, staff links that are under for staff, so that it allows our employees to access and to know how to interact with our documents and forms and procedures that go across the entire district. We've also created individual calendars for each collective bargaining agreement and contract for communication purposes and for predictability. The hiring process and training has been ongoing, but we're really starting to feather out the end of looking at sharpening our internships and attracting more interns to come to Saline, and also our onboarding processes that then lead to our retention, and then adding on an exit survey so that we can analyze why people may leave if it's other than retiring. We've worked a lot on staffing and master scheduling in that process, which included all district administration training with the principals. We're also looking at having predictable, transparent systems around staff accountability and training there. We've worked really hard at elevating the SEA evaluation process with an evaluation calendar, IDPs, and training. The Human Resources Department, and I thank those 4 powerful women that work every day on workflow, efficacy, and transparency for the district. Tonight, thank you for approving the Title IX procedures. There's been a lot of work around that, and we're anxious to make that transparent. We've also leaned into a lot of things that have changed, which includes the teacher tenure law and making sure that every certified staff member in the district are aware of their status in terms of tenure law. And then we have ongoing relationship building through contract negotiations with the SCA. And we really dedicated ourselves to surrounding and wrapping around a group that doesn't always get the opportunity to talk a lot about their contract, and that's the unaffiliated contract group, which employs nearly 80 employees who without them we would not operate. And so they may not fall under a collective bargaining agreement or an association, but they're very valid and important to how we operate every day. And so we've been leaning into lifting and working with them. Thank you.
And again, I'm covering Jackie's part. As she is, actually, if we look at the third bullet first, we're really working hard on introducing a robust new communications platform. It's called Parent Square, and it's It's honestly to make sure that we provide greater equity in making all these systems that are somewhat complicated for our parents and students to navigate and make them talk more together, make our communication systems easier. And so they are, she's in conjunction with Jay Grossman right now at a workshop so that we can get prepared to implement this Parent Square platform. If we go back up to the first bullet point, Jackie's been working hard on updating and standardizing SAS brand templates, increasing accessibility for building communications, as that's important. Again, we're trying to provide greater access so that it's easier for us to communicate and easier for people to go to our websites and find things, because that's complicated. Second, we are getting a lot of, Kara mentioned this earlier, that a lot of praise towards doing more about celebrations to promote diversity through observances. And again, we're coordinating with Ryan, specifically, Kerr, to make sure that we are working together to make sure that we are honoring and celebrating lots of different things across the district. And then the last bullet point here, working across departments to standardize volunteer processes to ensure a similar entry point across roles. That's been challenging because we want volunteers, but we want them coming into the district and making sure that we have uniform processes to make sure that, you know, everybody is, there's checks in place to make sure that we're not putting our students at any sort of risk when we're bringing in various volunteers. So a lot of good things going on in the communications and community relations area. And now,
So operations, the first bullet point was staffing levels. So with the new contract you approved last fall for the educational support personnel, it has really helped us in our getting more staff to apply, quality staff to stay with Saline area schools. You know, we're almost at 100% in transportation, not quite, but we're at 100% at food service and buildings and grounds. And, you know, every night, whether we have a full staff or not, we're cleaning 2.1 million square feet. That's 602,000 square foot homes every night. So, you know, providing a safe, warm environment, a positive learning environment. Each day we serve 2,400 lunches and 500 breakfasts. Whether we have a full staff or not, we're still serving that amount of food. When we're at full staff, we give a lot more choices, I feel, to the students. And then we give 3,000 rides every day. Our school bus drivers are doing a great job. Every day they need to come to school. We pick them up. We're the first ones to greet them in the morning. We're the last ones to see them at the end of the day. On the bond side, we completed the 28,000 square foot operations center in just over 2 years. So the bond passed in November of 2022. We were running transportation out of there by November 25th of 2024. We found a piece of property, worked with Liebherr, found a builder, a construction manager, an architect, and we got it done. And what that did is allowed these other projects that we're starting this summer at the middle school to keep on schedule, so that we're spending money on student, you know, new facilities for students, new STEAM center, new athletic facility, which is where we want the money to go. And then our solar integrated roofing project. You know, the Inflation Reduction Act kind of fell in our laps, but yet we took advantage of it. And we're going to continue to take advantage of it this next year to finish up those 2 solar projects. You know, we turned that around really, really fast, and we're still under budget. Again, spending money on infrastructure that not in the classroom, so keeping that under budget is my main goal. And then communication and coordination. As we work through these big projects at the high school and we start on the middle school, making sure everybody's on the same page, so we don't impact instruction time in the gymnasiums, in the school buildings, and keeping everybody safe, because there'll be a lot of equipment, working with Clark Construction and King Scott to make sure that we're keeping students safe and out of, you know, in harm's way. So, and then our next slide, safety and security. We adopted the school standard response protocols this year, the SRPs. We've implemented them in all 7 buildings as recommended by the Michigan Office of School Safety. We updated our building safety manuals and integrated with our Informacast. If Jay and Jackie were here, they'd be right beside me. We trained our admin team on standard reunification method this summer during our admin retreat. We reconvened interdisciplinary safety and security meetings, which means we had Pittsfield at the table, we had Washtenaw County Sheriff, we had Saline Fire, Saline Police. These happen every other month, and it's been great partners moving forward. We're hiring a new position dedicated to leading the work of Director of Safety and Security. This gentleman will start on January 6th. And I want to thank Jay Grossman and Jackie Martin for their leadership over the past year in this area above and beyond their assigned roles. So thank you to them for helping out and getting this done. And it's been a great year in movement forward for safety and security.
Okay, and then to close it out, we have a couple slides related to why we are all feeling, our core team feels that the future is really bright for the Saline area schools. Trying to summarize many of the highlights, we start at the top. We've had the highest AP pass rate in years at the high school, over 93%, which is really impressive. Consistently in the top 20 in M-STEP and SAT scores overall in Michigan. Consistently high scoring students at Skills USA competitions, and we talk a lot about the importance of our career tech programs, and I think that's another way that our students are excelling in learning and not necessarily, the typical academic courses. Then we talk about having perhaps the strongest music program in the state. The district has always prioritized music in so as much that in 5th grade, we have students having music every day, and that is important because it serves as a strong feeder program for kids to want to continue in music when it becomes an elective when they get to the middle school level. We have excellent Science Olympiad and FIRST Robotics teams. In fact, we have award-winning Science Olympiad and FIRST Robotics teams. It's why we're so excited about the new STEAM space at the high school specifically, because we have our middle school robotics teams winning state championships. Those kids are moving up to the high school very soon. Very excited about that. We have incredible extracurricular opportunities, so much so that, Lori Dawson was hired to really manage and support all of those. It just shows you the multitude of opportunities that our kids have, and it's really impressive. We have outstanding athletic teams. Obviously, we've talked about how we've been the #1 rated high school and district as it relates to athletics, and it's really combining 3 things: strong academics from our students, strong athletic facilities, and strong athletic students. And you put all of those together, we have a lot of really strong achievement in athletics as well. Finally, we're there's more, there's another slide, but we're a destination district for special education students and families. We continue to hear about the importance of being one of, if not the most inclusive school district in Washtenaw County, that we have the vast majority of our students are housed here in the district and are not sent out to any of the WISD programs. We're really proud of that. And also that reflects on a lot of parents and families that want to have their students here for our outstanding special education teachers and opportunities there. If we go on to the next slide, Ben, and Miranda already pointed this out, we have the strongest fund balance we've had in years at over 23%. We, as Carol mentioned, we've diversified our approach in hiring practices, and we are focused on a more equitable district in that way. We are demonstrating with Jackie specifically a strong line of communication to promote positive experiences in the district. We talk a lot about how we want to share our story and make sure that everybody knows that this is a district that can provide a lot of great experiences for kids. And finally, with Rex talking earlier about our bond passing, we feel like all those things are starting to come to fruition, and they pave the path for greater opportunities for our kids now and in the future. And then finally, in closing that out, we feel like it's very important that we strengthen our safety and security presence across the district and really bring that approach district-wide so we're more consistently implementing safety security procedures. That's why we're excited about this new Director of Safety and Security that will be introduced after winter break. Anyway, thank you very much. We're happy to take questions from anyone related to the state of the district.
So for my board colleagues, rather than have random people pop up, perhaps we can work our way down the line. Looks like you're in the lead there, Rex. Do we have any questions specifically for, and who knows, there may be no questions for you, Rex. Do we have any questions for Rex? Go ahead.
Okay. Getting to my notes on operations and safety. Also, I just wanted to say, you had mentioned the cleaning of the $2.1 million square feet. You also had mentioned, sorry, 2.1 million. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Reading my notes, sorry. 2.1, not 20. Yeah, well, Rex's job is expanding. He doesn't know yet. 2.1 million square feet of cleaning. And you also had mentioned the ability to almost 100% fill all of the positions with buildings and grounds. And I think one of the things that I was passionate about when I was running for the Board of Education and then throughout my tenure has been keeping those services in place under the umbrella of Saline and not through privatized, other companies who would come in and subcontract those. And I think that when we think about the work that your folks are doing and the maintenance of the buildings and how those buildings look and present each and every day, the fact that the middle or the high school does not look like a 21 or a 20 plus year old building just speaks to the dedication of you and speaks to the dedication of the people who work for our students each day in maintaining those facilities. So I just want to applaud you and your team because that's not the way it is everywhere.
No, it is not. And we talk about customer service and what does great customer service look like. And a lot of our custodians give great customer service to our staff, our parents, and our students. And they do a great job. So.
Even in my old age, as an elementary person, I sit on the floor in classrooms a lot, and I would sit on any of the floors in this school. Okay. I can't say that about every school everywhere. I do it, but sometimes I'm a little, I don't know. So for that, I was really disappointed to miss the Transportation Center open house. I'll probably at some point when life slows down a little bit, give you a call and see if I can come visit because I'm excited to see some of the innovation and some of the things that you've been able to include in that space. And I'm looking forward to how the space that you did occupy is going to be utilized for students. So excited about that. And lastly, I wanted to just echo what you said about Jackie and Jay and you, and just thank you for your continued efforts around safety and keeping our schools as safe as possible. And so now with the director of safety coming on board, I think we're going to be in good shape. But you've carried that with that team in addition to all the other things that you do. And so I appreciate that as a parent, as a former staff member, as a trustee. So thank you for that. And I guess those were really more comments than questions, but thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Jackie and Jay did a great job too. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that they hear those comments too.
Mine's more of a comment as well. Jenny made me think just now about, with the aggressive moves we made for hiring, and I'm glad that we've been able to realize, a lot of people also are local people who live here in our community, right? And so, that provides resources for our community, and it also provides a great deal of pride, right? And it enhances our city of Saline, our surrounding townships, all that. So I want to make sure that I talk about that. And then I'm gonna loop you and Miranda together and just say, like, yeah, like you saw through our financial piece, which has kind of always been my thing. I want you to know how much I do appreciate, like even tonight, what a steward you are of being on budget, on time, being cognizant of that. I listened to you talk tonight about your priorities being, we always talk the classroom, the classroom, the classroom. You model that, so I appreciate that, and I want you to know.
Thank you.
Got anything to say, Cody?
Shout out to Cody for Filter First. Cody and Miranda, they were successful on getting over $500,000 for the Filter First legislation. That'll be in the news in the new year, so.
Nicely.
Yes.
Well done.
Clean water.
At every spot. Julie, any questions for our special ed? I do have one. January 25th for the polar plunge. That looks like it's a Saturday.
Oh, thank you. I think it is. I think it is.
How unusual.
Yeah. I will circle back around, but that was what was in our communication amongst the special ed teams.
Every year, all the board members try to make it, but not many do.
Okay. Tell you what, I will definitely send out an email once I confirm that. But we would love to see you there. I plan to be there. So, not anymore.
Thank you. Questions?
For the Little Caesars exciting event on the 31st, is that a daytime game? Are there tickets available?
Thank you. Yes.
Can people come and support our kiddos?
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, so we will be leaving the buildings around 9 a.m. and then we have 2 different sessions of playing. So it starts at around 11 and goes till about 2 o'clock. And then the athletes and their families actually have the opportunity to stay for a Pistons game, or anybody who buys a ticket can stay for the Pistons game. So there'll be some going out and having dinner and coming back for the game in the evening. And you can purchase tickets. I know that Dr. Lodge put it into his newsletter, but we'll make sure it's also posted on the website.
Thank you. I also just wanted to highlight, too, that some of my own children's favorite experiences were with the connecting program. So things like the polar plunge, the shopping trip that you mentioned, those are all events that stand out as favorites from their time in Saline. And so I just appreciate the work that you're doing with Unified Sports and connecting program to integrate and be inclusive for all of our students. So thank you for that work. It's definitely a model. I know that that all of you have taken this on the road and told others about it, but it is definitely a model for other districts to consider.
It's pretty
amazing.
And for me, I'm just starting. This is work that people have been doing and building and growing. I'm just happy to support it. It's really one of the best parts of my job is seeing that connection between the peers and the work that they're doing together. It's awesome.
Well, from all we've heard, you're the next best person to lead this work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Julie? No.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Kara Davis. Questions for Kara? You usually give such great reports throughout the year, and we'll try and keep it.
See one slide today. One slide.
That's great. But I did have one question. I appreciated you're dipping more than a toe into AI. I do appreciate that. You know, I'm working hard on that at the university level, and you've adopted BRISC. Are we unique among districts in Washtenaw to do that, or is it a consortium of schools that bought into that?
No, I don't know that it is necessarily. Obviously, we are really closely connected with the Future of Learning Council, which is like-minded school districts within the state of Michigan, and that's a pretty expansive group. And so it came to our attention last year. Jay brought it to us as a possibility. We also had a couple of other trials going on. Rachel Parent, teacher at the high school, has also been an integral part of our collaboration on what steps were next. So she helped with the PD this summer and tried on some tools last year with students. And then we decided to go with this particular one because it felt like it would target a number of the needs that have been identified by staff members in terms of gaining back time. So we were looking at it first from a teacher perspective on how we could leverage AI in order to gain back some of that work-life balance. And we've been trying to layer in supports. We added Jordan Holscher to our team this year. She's an IT specialist who's working in the capacity of more of a coach and somebody who can be a facilitator between the teaching and learning team and the IT department and be there for staff. So we went with that one, and we've looked recently at a couple of different tools. They went out to Northville to look at some of they're about a year and a half ahead of us, which is really nice. We learned that through FLC. And so partnering with districts around our peer districts in this county and then others outside of this county to, just see what's happening and what's the next step is obviously moving quite quickly. So we want to be strategic and intentional, but also be inquisitive, curious, and excited about what it can do. So
the summer of 2022, after ChatGPT, among other tools, came out, I spoke with one new English teacher who was absolutely terrified. The feeling on the ground, so to speak, is much improved about AI in the classroom?
I anticipated that would be a little bit further along when we hit the AI Oh My training in August. So we did a soft check formatively of, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being I'm all in and 1 being fearful, have some apprehension around it. There's a lot more 2s and 3s than I anticipated because we actually held it from last August, and I'm really glad that we did because it's important that we're sort of in that zone of proximal development, even for adults. It would have been probably too much in 23, 24, so we're glad that we waited for this year, and we also wanted to have some supports and tools in place. I think even between August and now, we've seen a pretty significant shift. And we have a number of teachers trying out different tools and also starting to look at how students can be using these tools and using them directly with students to increase inquiry, do some scaffolding, provide translations, things like that, that we're, as we tell the story more, we're going to see more and more people gain excitement about it. So it's been a nice shuffle throughout the year.
I was just reflecting on the slide and AI and some of the especially leveraging these grants, which allow for opportunities that we wouldn't otherwise have. So thinking outside of our, regular budget to see how we can utilize streams of funding is really exciting. But just in looking at the courses that we approved tonight and reflecting back on some of the courses that have been added over the last few years, I just wanted to note that I appreciate that you and your team have been extremely responsive to the needs of our students, but also to their dreams, and thinking about what they are interested in and how you can combine their interest with innovation and learning that's making them flexible learners and engaged and motivated in the content that they encounter each day. So thank you for those opportunities for those students.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the creativity of our staff. I mean, and the conversations we have in hallways, and when they see they get really excited, and they know the Foundation for Saline Area Schools is a great partner and that we're here to support them. So it comes into a neat partnership, and it's a lot of work. So I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that, because having extra money in those grants it's great, and it's extra time and effort, and a number of Amazon orders. And I would be remiss if I did not point out how much a number of our staff, Betty included, Jen, finance, human resources, have processed so much in order for us to be able to really take advantage of all of these funds. So,
any other questions for Carol Davis? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So any questions for Jackie Martin's proxy? Actually, I do have a comment. When I first, you don't have to stand up. When I first started on the board, I was approached by one parent who had a kid in 4 different schools who said, oh my gosh, the amount of mail, email, electronic, and otherwise that I receive is like drinking from a fire hose. So this parent square sounds like it's going to mitigate a little bit of that and calm things down. So I know there are some parents out there in the district who are greatly appreciative, and maybe not. Well, I don't know, maybe, or maybe more so.
Okay.
Questions for Jackie?
Not questions for, I just want to also give credit to the DEI advisory committee who worked on this regularly, and the document and the celebrations. I know there was an increase this year of recognition. I do know that there are stuff that's been left out, and so Jackie knows what I'm talking about, and I hope that we are more intentional in focusing on awareness days and not leave out communities who are especially vulnerable in this time and age. So also being intentional in following policies and cutting down on, well, eliminating hate speech, and making sure that we address those and not depend on our most marginalized community members to speak out against it. I feel like the district staff and leadership need to take a stand against that. But yeah, I'm pleased to see some of the things that's, you know, on our social media. I appreciate Jackie, and so I just wanted to give some recognition where recognition's due, and you know, I think we could do a little better, but we're doing good. So,
Thank you. Others? Jenny.
I just was going to add onto that this was something new that Jackie brought to the district, these recognition days, especially on our social media. And one former colleague, but a friend, reached out to me in particular and let me know that it was the first time that her family had felt recognized by the district, and how important that was for their family, and how meaningful that was. And so I just want to commend Jackie for getting this started and for partnering with our DEI AC in continuing to build and develop those celebrations and those recognitions, and how meaningful and important it is for our students and families to feel visible, to feel a part of this community. So I just wanted to commend her for that work, and I know she's continuing to get feedback and to continue to develop some of those, and so it's only getting better from here.
Thank you. Miranda. Any questions for Miranda? We actually have a question for Miranda.
Miranda, I was wondering if you could clarify for us. You had specifically mentioned, I think you, or maybe it was Carol, I can't remember. One of you had specifically, so I guess it's a combo question. How about that? Specifically mentioned interns, and I don't know specifically if you were talking about student interns, but I know the state recently made some changes to funding for student interns, student teachers, as we used to call them. I don't know, I think we're calling them interns now. I don't know, colleges are calling them different things, but wondering if you could talk about that from the finance side. Does the district fund that? Do the universities fund that? Does the state have a pass-through? How does that work?
I do think that most of the intern things are going through the universities. I do know in one case that we got paid, then I had to turn around and give it back to the university for the university to give it to the student, because there wasn't a direct flow through having to do with private and public universities, I do believe. So I think it's happening in a variety of ways. We don't have a lot of direct revenues coming in that are turning around to the teachers, so they are still flowing mostly through the universities.
That's good for you. Less for you to have to manage. And then the other question that I had for you, and I know like with recent events, this is kind of a touchy subject, but as the cost of healthcare continues to rise, and it's not the fault of the school districts per se that they're not raising the rates as exponentially as they're raising, but they're having to respond to that. And just considering, I love that we have a really, really, really healthy fund balance, but I also recognize the burden of the increasing health costs that it's causing to our to our staff. And so I'm wondering, like, how do we, or if you've thought about, like, how do we balance what we can do, knowing and fully realizing that we can't control the beast that is controlling the inflated cost?
Yeah, it's a big partnership that we all kind of share in that for the cost, and also the cost that, you know, many employees pay out of their paycheck, you know, for those rich plans. And so it is a partnership, and it's not one of those things where it's both parties, you know, interested in looking and pricing out other things and possibly going with other insurance or staying with our own. And it's obviously a trend nationally too that we, you know, there's pieces that we can look into. Always there's lots of layers and drug costs and different things like that that we can layer into investigating those things as a partnership, as well as negotiations on what levels that we provide, as well as the law changes, whether there's hard cap things into play. You know, there's been a lot of bills introduced to maybe change those things. Right now there is, you know, federal law protecting, or it's actually state laws, I think, in the hard cap lane sort of thing. So that actually binds the district to only paying an X cost. So if we continue to want to have that ridge, the district can only go to a certain point too, by law. So that's kind of a multitude of things pulsing all at once, correct?
I think it's important for people to understand that hard cap too, because it can be perceived that we have, you know, this fund equity balance that is higher than it's ever been, and yet the burden of, and sometimes the incredible burden to some of our staff with the healthcare costs. So understanding, you know, all the intricacies of that. And just on a I guess a highlight, my own district is utilizing Saline and their healthcare numbers and contributions, as at least the union is using that as a model for what they'd like to see. So I do commend you for the work that you're doing, and that it is at least perceived by other districts as a better model than perhaps what they currently have. So thank you for that. I really want, I'm getting a lot of feedback from community members about how the high fund equity balance and the cost of healthcare and how those two seem to be at odds with one another. So I want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible about that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Lots of factors.
Yes,
sure.
exactly.
Are there any? Thank you. I wonder if there are any questions for Carol, who has not spoken yet. Yes, Susan.
Yes, I had a question about the unaffiliated contracts of the 80, was it 80?
Yeah, 80.
Nearly 80.
Some.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was just wondering who approves those contracts, or what kind of, I guess, different examples of those employees. I'm
So
just
if
curious.
you think of the operations that is overseen by Rex and Cody and Tracy, that's our ESP contract, and that's all your monitors, your bus, your office assistants, paraprofessionals, they all fall under that contract. All your certified staff under the SEA, the administrators, building administrators, and some directors have an association, and then all the rest of our employees are unaffiliated. So they're techs. So a lot of them they're the only one in the district that has their jobs. And so I've hosted a couple meetings, voluntary meetings for them to come in, talk about their contract, go over some changes we've made. And so I'd have them introduce themselves and often say, you're the only one in the district that has this role. So think about some of the power school and the magic that happens behind the scenes. All of our office coordinators in special ed and HR and finance, Betty, everyone sitting here, we're all unaffiliated. We've done some work in giving that group some attention because they don't live under a collaborative bargaining agreement or an association. So we wanted to work hard on making things consistent and transparent for them. Miranda's done miraculous work around putting scales in for everybody so it's predictable. And so it's kind of overseen by HR, of course, but not without the input and the collaboration with CORE, and we're trying to get it more collaborative with the unaffiliated as well.
Cool. Thanks for that information. Sure. And that you're, making those connections and hopefully having them feel seen and heard.
Yeah, and connected, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they have a place. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you very much to the whole CORE team and for the state of you're right. Steve, it is a great time to be a Hornet. Thank you very much. I think we can continue to plow along. We have one quick discussion item and a possible motion. I report from the ad hoc committee. That would be myself, Tim Austin, who's not here, and Lauren Gold. We were asked, the board made a decision at the last meeting to do a third-party review of the athletic department, the whole athletic department, and programs. And before we dove too deeply into that, the question was, what indeed is a third-party review, and what could it possibly look like? So I initiated, as a board president, formed an ad hoc committee. We had Lauren and Tim and myself. We made a few phone calls, had some interviews with some folks who actually do this work, and it actually does exist. There are people who do this. And we have a pretty strong sense now of what a third-party review is, and I'll just give you some of the highlights. Everyone to a person said they would come out to the district, could be as many as 3 days, possibly a week, interview coaches, parents, players, and parents and administrative staff as necessary, and also put some surveys in the field, okay, to get additional data from stakeholders. They would, we asked if it would be possible to do audits or departmental audits on the following areas: communication with families and students in the community, coaching standards, like how do we keep up with the MHSAA rules and the various compliance that we have to do, climate and culture. Title IX compliance was a strong concern of ours. We wanted to make sure that it was addressed. Finances, including fundraising, is a concern I had. Leadership development and mentorship, coach and program assessment in general, management of end-of-year surveys, what happens to them, where do they go? Do we fill out these surveys and we just want to know what happens to them? Innovations in athletics, including big teams, I believe that's the one. Yep, and other innovations. The process for recruiting and hiring athletic department staff, process for recruiting, hiring, evaluating, and terminating coaching staff, the process for incoming student athletes, and the role at the athletic department in verifying residency, and how we comply with all the MHSAA rules. They figured, to a person, they said the interviews and surveys could be completed within 1 to 2 weeks, and they could generate a report within 2 to 3 weeks, so that's very helpful to know. The cost for the review could range anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 plus expenses. And the deliverables, we've asked what would you actually deliver. And it's a high-level, readable overview, not a document with thousands of pages of data points, but rather something that's readable, that will demonstrate departmental strengths, identification of weaknesses, and offer actionable suggestions for growth and improvement. Everyone was well familiar with FERPA regulations and avoiding disclosing personally identifiable information, of course. And the team would be able to provide, whoever we select, if we select someone, would be to conduct the review by a team with publicly available credentials. These are all the factors that we wanted to see that we thought were part and parcel of a third-party review. Both Tim, Lauren, and I left our conversations thinking I can say this, we understand what a third-party review could look like now. So now we're up to the next stage, and I'd like to open the floor for any discussion of this report that I shared with you in the packet. Susan Eastet.
A couple questions. Well, I guess points too, because I thought part of what we were doing was, you had said at the last meeting, it being kind of similar to search, like the search firms that were recommended when we went through the hiring process of a superintendent. So is that something that, since there's not like specific names, or maybe you can give us an idea of what organizations, what type of people do this kind of work. And so second question, is the departmental audit, so including an evaluation of the following areas that you mentioned, is that something the ad hoc committee came up with, or is that kind of what you got from the organizations that you spoke with, or companies?
Right. Well, two things. Yeah, we weren't really in the shopping mode at that point. So we were looking around. First of all, we needed to get a sense of, are there people out there who could do this kind of work? Are they lawyers or are they former coaches? Who are these people? And we did find that there were a lot of pretty brilliant retired athletic directors across the country who could do this kind of work. One of the questions I know I raised was, are you familiar, even though you might be from Iowa, for example, or California, are you familiar with Michigan's rules, for MHSAA's rules and regulations? And they said almost every state is based on a framework, a national framework that's understood by other states. So when we have a transfer student in, some states have a 3-month wait period. Michigan has a 1-year wait period. So they said, you know, just looking at whatever our rules are, they very familiar with them in that respect. So we did look at a number of different types of people. There are individual consultants, and they have teams of folks working for them, or they work just by themselves. We also started our conversations with the MHSAA right away just to find out what they knew about the process. And they have as you see in the report, a cadre of retired athletic directors who are not staff. They work independently, but they gave us a sense of the sort of things that they cover. So to get to your second question, the areas I listed in that audit, there were quite a few elements. We took out a few, we added a few, and some of them were suggested by the consultants that we spoke with, and others we came up with all on our own. So that's where they came from. And of course, if we get to the point where we want to hire somebody and we've made a decision, and there's one particular area we desperately want to cover, I hope that people will feel free to raise that. Brad? I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Follow up.
Oh, so I just looking at like the following, that I guess I look at some of these areas, and I think that it just can't be like on the department itself, because there's HR components in here. Title IX's under HR now, but previously it wasn't. So I think there's probably, and then finance. So it wouldn't, to me, I don't see it as just, like that's the, specific focus, the department, but there's gonna be other offices coming together. And I guess that maybe a couple months ago, we talked to a lawyer who never came back to us, and we never got like a specific update from the lawyer regarding the process. And I want to make sure that that's also included in here for whatever we were asking at that point. But I think it was processed with the transfer and then residency and pieces of that. So yeah.
I think as to that, it might be important to, I don't think that this could look at every thing that happens in the district that possibly touches sports, because I think that will be like too broad. As it is, I think this is pretty broad what's been proposed. I think we're gonna have a decision to make as to whether we want to go with a firm, and we have one in mind that we can vet more. President McVeigh maybe doesn't want to give the exact name, but their references, and it's sort of an out-of-state firm versus one of these MHSAA recommended independent contractors, and that's part of what we would come back to the board to ask to see if there was a preference.
Yeah. I actually mentioned the name in here.
Okay.
Yeah. Brad?
So yeah, that was gonna be my question. Like, I guess, are we just receiving this report tonight as like something to ponder upon? Or are we choosing between these two options, one being the MHSAA or the other being this independent individual from Iowa? Are we doing that? And then I guess I'd want to know this too, because you two were part of that committee and conducted these virtual interviews with them. Does that committee have a recommendation about one of these two, if these are the two you're bringing forward?
Just to be real clear, the motion was not to empower us to make any recommendations. That's the first thing. Secondly, if we were to bring to the board table a proposal to choose from 1, 2, or 3 of these people, obviously we want to give you prices, we want to give you their CVs, and there's a
Correct.
lot of information that we need to provide for you. That's for the next step. The first step was just to figure out what on earth a third-party review actually meant and entailed.
So this is just a report of information, but no decision making. And so do we have a timeline on when we would want to bring us like a, this is the individuals, this is the cost, like?
That would be for the board to decide.
I think the original motion was sort of investigate the possibility of a third-party review, so now it would be a motion as to whether we went ahead and proceeded in some capacity.
And if the board is in favor of I can certainly entertain a motion from the board to proceed forward either with this same ad hoc committee or with another group to present the board with the full proposal, if you want to go that way. Yes, ma'am. Jenny Miller.
I was just going to read the motion just so that we all can recall exactly what the
I
task
actually
was.
put it in, didn't I, at the start? I guess I didn't.
Yeah, and discussion was,
Yeah. So
had
Well, go
various
ahead if you want to
other
read it. Go
components.
ahead.
Yeah, so it just says that there was a motion to direct the Board of Education, to direct the board president to create an ad hoc committee to research the parameters for engaging in an independent third party to conduct a transparent review of the athletic department and present their findings for the next meeting at the Board of Ed or as early in January as possible. So I think that that's what we're seeing tonight is the fruits of the committee, the ad hoc committee doing that research and, laying out some of the parameters that they would suggest for engaging in this third party. So in terms of, I think we have, a discussion on like what the next steps might be. But in addition, going back now to that report, I wondered if you might speak a little bit to, there was a $6,000 to $10,000 quote in there for the cost of a potential review. So I just wonder if you have thoughts as to budget and how that would be, like where we would get that funding.
I would obviously ask Superintendent Lotch where that funding would come from. I would not be funding it myself. Don't want to be glib, but or we do a GoFundMe. I believe there's money in our the Board of Education budget for such things. Usually, it's the same sort of monies that would go toward paying for legal services and so forth. Yeah.
That was
Yeah, just come out of the general
Clarify that, please.
it would come out of the general fund.
Yeah, we don't have a separate line item to do an athletic review, but we would just we would create, not necessarily line item, but we would just take it out of the general fund. Because we wouldn't be able to fund it with a grant or anything like that, yep.
So I have some hesitation. So I think the question now is like, the ad hoc committee looked into what the possibilities were. I also spoke with an attorney. The ad hoc committee sort of felt like going the non-attorney route was preferable, so that isn't really discussed here, but we did we just tried to learn more about who was out there doing what things could look like, what the benefits of each are. I'm a little hesitant to make them, because I think now the decision is like, okay, do we say this is what this is, but maybe we don't. I'm a little hesitant that this is something that's gonna happen in the next term, to decide to vote now with 2 members missing and our upcoming turnover. I mean, we could decide, but
Well,
I
and
don't know.
I think that the vote tonight, and I don't, I mean, whichever way you want to go, but I think the vote tonight is not necessarily, like, I think from what I understand from the motion that I just read and from the report that I see here, is we're discussing the contents of this report to determine if there are things that are important for us to consider. Are there things that are, things that we should, that we don't need to consider, and then just asking, like I was asking questions about the budget and just how that comes, how that plays out, since we haven't done this before. So I'm not necessarily certain that we would, someone I guess could make a motion to move forward, but I was just thinking that at this point, we're looking at this report to see if we have any suggestions for revisions or
Mr.
modifications.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I see this more as just, I'm receiving information, and that is that, and then we would gather our 2 individuals back who I think will have some thoughts on this and go. So yeah, I would not want to make a motion tonight either. Like, I do not find that would be the appropriate action at this time.
Just to respond to that before I ask Susan to ask her question, it is possible to gather to spend between now and January 14th preparing a packet. You could empower us or any group you want, or to put together a packet of information, precise prices, so we're not just guesstimating. So I can tell you that the one individual, it has a much higher cost than the group of retired athletic directors, but there might be some issue or concern about transparency that would need to be addressed. So we could conceivably, following whatever guidance the board gives, continue on with this work, and then have the next board in January make that decision.
Do we need to give you that declaration tonight? Like, do we need to say, okay, we want you to definitively do that?
I would prefer that you empowered the board president to do something as opposed to me galloping off by myself, yeah.
No, then I want to make sure you are heard out, and then afterwards, like, I'll be ready to do that.
I'll just say too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Susan. Susan.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
yeah, thanks. So, I mean, so you all mentioned, so this list that you removed some things, I'm not sure where it came from. I think that's important. Like, maybe different organizations like include various things, and then the fact that there was the legal route but not presented as an option. I want to make sure that we have all of that, or January, everybody has all of that information.
I may not have clearly answered that part of your question before, but let me try. Both of the people we spoke with gave us a list similar to this, and upon discussion within the ad hoc group, we decided it was too long. It ended up, and we trimmed it down a little bit because there were some elements that we weren't particularly, minor elements, but both groups shared the same sort of ideas. And then Tim, myself, and Lauren each added some elements as well based on our communications from the community. So that's where all of this came from. The question is, if we put this in front of the noses of one of these groups, would they be qualified to do all of the things on it? And if there are more things that you want to see on the list, this is information that I'm happy to receive from any board member, even the ones who are rolling off the board, to add to this shopping list of things we want to have reviewed. And that was the term we landed on. Investigation we didn't like. Audit wasn't very particularly helpful. Review is probably most accurate one.
Yeah, I would think, I understand like presenting it to other people and say, this is what we're looking for. But also whenever there are, I hope, recommendations of who, I don't know if that, maybe that's where it is, like give us options. And then the board can make that decision and it's transparent. But looking at what maybe they offer that maybe another one doesn't offer, and
Yep.
you know, making sure that's all transparent as well, so
Right.
that we're not eliminating components that other board members may feel that are beneficial as well.
Right. And as you know from the Open Meetings Act, we're going to not make recommendations if we're empowered to do that. But if you empower the ad hoc committee to continue its work and generate some comparisons of these outfits, then that would be something that we could do. Jenny Miller.
So I just want to first say thank you to Trustee Gold and Trustee Austin and President McVeigh, because not only did they spend time on the 20th and the 25th with the MHSAA and the independent consultant, but also just time together considering each of the elements that you know, we've heard either from our community or you know, that we have thought about over the last several years. And so I just want to say thank you for your work on this. And I, for the sake of the community, for the sake of the board, for the sake of our student athletes, I would like to make a motion to empower the board president to either reconvene or reappoint an ad hoc committee to present specific potential contracts for the board to consider in January or at your earliest convenience.
I'll second that.
What was the verb to what contracts?
To, what did I say? To provide or to present, maybe, yeah.
You said present.
Present for consideration, yeah. So I think it would be a benefit to everyone to not delay this any further, but instead in January to have potential contracts for the board to consider so that we can move this forward and for the sake of our employees, our staff, our students, the community, have the results of this and move forward.
So I'm hearing, and perhaps our board secretary can verify, I would like to entertain a motion to empower the board president to reconvene or reappoint. Yep. Lauren, if you're up for it, then I think Tim is as well. So to reconvene the ad hoc committee to present contracts.
Yeah, to work to obtain
Options?
options for potential contractors for the board to consider in January or at the earliest convenience of the ad hoc committee. I know we have a couple of weeks where folks might have some things going on with winter break, so it might not be, you know, in January, but I think as soon as possible, it would serve for a lot of healing in our community.
Empower the
to
board
move
president
forward.
to reconvene the ad hoc committee to work to obtain options to present to the board for consideration.
And I'll support the motion.
So Jenny Miller made it, Gerby supported it. Any further discussion on this? Well, hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess not. So thank you very much. That's the next step. And yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Whoa. Merry Christmas.
And with that.
Oh, you had one job, Steve.
Oh, Tiffany's got it. Thank you, Tiffany.
got you. This is turning into an Abbott and Costello routine.
It's good.
Hey, these things happen.
You missed one. Oh,
One of the strands or.
thank you.
I wore that on the thank you, on the Merry Mile. Thank you. Administrative board updates. We'll start with Superintendent Lodge and work our way down.
Okay, will do. Okay, a couple of comments tonight. First, I want to congratulate our Saline High School esports teams and our middle school first robotics teams. They had a great showing this past weekend, esports at the state finals in East Lansing and MSU, state champions for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and semifinalists and state runner-up for Valorant, and quarterfinalists for Super Smash Brothers. And I think it's important to know that this is, for many of these students, their first opportunity to be on a team, collaborative in that spirit, and it's been great for our kids, so I'm very excited for them. And also to our awesome middle school robotics teams, Swarm, which is one of the robotics teams, won the state championship this past weekend. They're back-to-back champions. And then we also have another team, Cybugs, who's trying to win the state championship for a second time as well. And that's sort of confusing, but there's so many teams in Michigan that they've actually divided up Michigan into like 2 states. And so we're sort of dominating in both sides of the state, and it's a credit to some outstanding coaches and our students, and that's why we're really excited for the future of what that's going to look like when they're moving forward to the high school. And we have them both scheduled on January 14th for a superintendent recognition, so they can come in and we can really congratulate their efforts. Okay, and my next announcement is that I'm retiring. I've been an educator in Saline area schools for 27 years now. I started at Heritage School in 1997, where I was a technology instructor. At the time, that was one of the special classes that we had, and it was great. That's where I began. I was also a 6th grade teacher for a number of years, and then I moved into the role of Heritage Assistant Principal. At that time, Heritage was a 5th and 6th grade building. And then I had 4 years as the Heritage School Principal. And then when Scott Graydon moved into the superintendency, I came with him to be the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction for over 10 years. And now 4 years as superintendent. I had a half year as interim superintendent. It's been a great run, yet I'm ready to move on at the conclusion of the school year, and so I'm announcing my retirement effective July 1st, 2025. It's really important to announce it now because the Board of Education needs time to start the search firm process, determine when you post the position, when we'll interview for the position, and then ultimately get the next superintendent on board in the spring of 2024 with the hope that I can help with a seamless transition for the next superintendent. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in these 27 years. We have simply outstanding student, staff, and community members. It's such an incredibly collaborative and supportive district, and the environment where I really believe strongly that everybody really understands the importance of educating the whole child. I think as we went over the state of the district tonight, we really showcased how so many kids can fit into the district and have a place in the district, and we want to keep moving forward so that we are providing even more equitable opportunities for our students. I'm going to be sending out a letter to the community tomorrow morning outlining my retirement. And finally, I'm really looking for a really snowy winter so that I can, so Snow Day Steve can activate a few more times and give it one last go. So thank you, Saline, and go Hornets.
I know, Steve, in the next little while, there are going to be a lot of opportunities for accolades, but I'm going to pass this over to Kate Sonnenday, our student rep.
I don't have many updates for the high school, but again, just thank you to Trustee Eastep and Miller for being so welcoming the past few months and the work you've done that I've seen. So thank you.
Brad? Oh, I've got very little to say, except I did attend the South and West Washtenaw Consortium Open House last week. It was it last week? Seems like just yesterday. Anyways, quite amazing. They tried a different format this year, and there was a lot of folks showed up. I actually met a fellow teacher from Chelsea who seems to be cut from the same cloth I was, interested in robotics, and Doug Moss was his name. And Dwayne Ross, Moss. I had your name right the first time. Yeah, Dwayne Moss. Anyway, 3D printing and that sort of thing. And so I have a lot of questions to ask him with my hat as a technology teacher, as well as board member. So we'll pass this along to Brad.
All right. I have a little bit to say, and I apologize to my colleagues, but I need to do this. So before I get deeper into my comments, the first thing I want to do is I want to state how appreciative I am for the staff of our schools and of Saline. Every person who works for our schools, and we heard earlier about a lot of those job categories, things of that nature. You're important, you're valuable, and I hope you get to experience a joyful and restful winter break. So that's the first thing I want to make sure I say. You've earned it, you deserve it. The second thing I want to do is I want to thank the outgoing board members for your service to our community over the past 6 years and 4 years, and especially to you, Jenny. I want you to know how much your perspective and your courage has made me a better trustee. And I also want to thank Wes and Allie and Drew and Lainey for sharing your wife, Wes, and your mom whenever I just needed to problem solve or work through a perspective. You did it a lot for me. Thank you for that. Okay. And the job of a trustee can be kind of a little isolating at times, right? Because you're in closed session and you're in doing things for, you don't want to violate OMA and FERPA and all those kinds of things. And so individual conversations is often sometimes what we have to fall back on. And I'm so grateful for you and your support. All right. And so that is that. Now for kind of the more pointed part of my my statement tonight. So stability of an organization to me is the most important thing, and it's something that I think a school board should be absolutely obsessed with. And one of the things that I've noticed is, we've talked a lot about sports, but sports are not the only thing we do as an organization. And in totality, we do a lot more. And it is my opinion that sports recently caused us to stray from our defined roles and responsibilities. That is my feeling. I would go as far as to even say that that we are borderline meddling and undermining. And I don't think that's good for the district. I don't think it's good for our employees. And I really don't think it's good for the organization. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to say, I just still do not believe that, spending $10,000 is a prudent mechanism for that. That said, I was on the wrong end of an official vote in motion, and that's how it goes. And I participated in the discussion tonight, and I've saved my personal comments for this time. But I still do continue to feel that way. Back to something. I want to say to Steve Lotch, I've known you for a long time, and I wish we could talk you into serving out the remainder of your contract. You are a very good superintendent. You do an outstanding job. I applaud you for serving our district so valiantly for 27 years. It was funny when you said you started teaching you started in this district in 1997. I mean, I was graduating high school. So just to give you an idea, and I don't say that to make Steve feel old. I say that to make Steve realize it's okay that you're retiring. You've earned it. You've earned the ability to do this, and you deserve it. And I wish you well, and I'm glad you're seeing the school year through with us, and I'm glad we get to realize your expertise and your care, because I know when you make decisions, you make them from a place of absolute caring about your staff, caring about students, caring about families in this school district. And thank you. Thank you so much, Steve, okay? You know, I hope that our next superintendent can provide as awesome experience and stability as I believe you have. So thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else? I'm sure it wasn't that important. Have a great holiday season, folks.
I'd like to thank trustees Eastep and Miller for their service to the board and specifically for being mentors to me as I got started. And I will just leave it at that because it's going to get lengthy. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of opportunity to talk about our superintendent, so I'm going to leave that as well, other than I'm sure this is not an easy decision in anyone's career, and I wish, I think we're going to have a very productive last month, and so this isn't goodbye, but I know it's hard to come to a big decision, and so sometimes it just feels good when you've made it and you announce it, and so I hope you're feeling a little bit of that tonight. I am looking forward to all the concerts coming up this month. I know this is a busy time for parents and students. I want to shout out student Chu, whose first name I unfortunately cannot remember, but Elise. Oh my gosh, to get up in front of all of these people and talk so eloquently, that was really, really impressive. I think we'll see her on the board someday. And I also have a special place in my heart and soul for Woodland Meadows, so I'll be listening to hear more about that. I want to wish those who celebrate in December a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah, falling on the same exact date this year. Not my favorite configuration, but it is what it is. And everyone a really nice winter break and a Happy New Year.
Trustee Eastep and then Trustee Miller.
Yes. Quick shout out to esports. My child was able to participate earlier in the year, not at the tournament, but and it sounds like great coaches and students. I was tuned in for Mario Kart on Twitch with my daughter, and so we cheered on. It was multiple games, and they won state champs. So in addition to all of the the teams, the Super Mario Kart took the top, and it was just like they were back and forth in the numbers, and so the last couple they really pulled through, and it was pretty exciting. So and then shout out to our robotics teams as well, and I know there's other sports that we're not mentioning, but and activities. So keep doing those activities and focusing on school as well, your academics. So, but yeah, I think we, like earlier, mentioned all of these opportunities in our district, and I'm glad that we have various things like esports. I have to explain what that is whenever I mention. I'm like, it's not like you're moving around much sports. So yeah, I'm thankful for that in this district. I'm going to make, I guess, kind of a statement, farewell. So I want to start by thanking the community for electing me in 2018 to represent you. Sorry. For 6 long years. I'm thankful for the opportunity that you gave me, and I hope that I served you well. I've always been proud that I'm the first openly LGBTQ plus board trustee to be elected to Saline area schools. The LGBTQ plus community has long needed a seat at this table in all places where decisions are being made. While I will no longer have a seat at the table come January, I will continue to use my voice to advocate for LGBTQ plus students, staff, and our community. During my time on the board, I served as policy chair, where I introduced and drafted 2 significant policies that, thanks to the board, passed unanimously: the transgender and non-binary students policy and the diversity, equity, and inclusion and advisory policy. The board's DEI advisory committee has been a central part of significant change and progress that has been made in this district the past 6 years. They successfully advocated for a director of DEI, a role that is focused on supporting our educator and has educators with, the culturally responsive instruction and, a lot of different roles that are happening in the district. Having served also as a board rep for many years with the Sex Education Advisory Board, I'm so proud of the progress, and progress is an understatement, that they have made. They made recommendations that the board passed with special education curriculum, body safety program for our elementary children, 4th through 8th grade curriculum that was from the late 90s, early 2000s. And now they're reviewing, getting in there and starting to review the high school curriculum. So I'm so thankful for that. And that, despite differing views, they're doing a really great job and making sure that everybody's heard on the committee and bringing it here. So I'm very proud of them. Regarding some challenges, I think the district can do a better job at recording and reporting data and taking actions against bullying, harassment, and hate speech in this district. It continues to be issues. It's not just recent with the, the country or, it's been going on since actually before 2000s. I've found some articles. So, like in the 1990s. In order to do this successfully, there needs to be systemic change, accountability. The board needs to, it wasn't here today, but needs to uplift the recommendations from the DEI Advisory Committee, the 3-year plan that our community has really worked hard on with input, and make sure the action steps are being taken. I hope when I leave here that will continue. And having these inclusive policies doesn't always guarantee that they're being implemented. And so the board needs to be responsible for holding superintendent, administration accountable in implementing everything. And so, yeah, we still have a lot of work to do in this district. I'm going to be on the other side of things, but I hope that continues. Thank you to the students, my constituents, supporters, mentors, and especially to my closest friends and family who have stuck by my side, even though they experienced turmoil because of it. I wish the best for incoming board members, Jason Tizidis and Darcy Berwick. I encourage them to speak honestly and vote on behalf of the constituents and not based on deliberation with other board members or admin behind the scenes. It's democracy to speak honestly and vote regardless if people agree or not. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage current board members to be more intentional in doing that as well. To all the board members, please remember your why. My why has always been and always will be the children in our district. I know it's a good time for me to step back and really start to focus on and support my community in a different capacity, and joining you all, really advocating for needs and things to come. I will always remain a strong advocate for our students, and I will never give up fighting for the rights of our students and staff who are LGBTQ+, Black, Brown, Muslim, Jewish, who have disabilities, or any community who is negatively impacted by barriers that have been long embedded in this district and community. Always remember, we are all Hornets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Eastep. We'll keep calling you trustee for as long as we can, right till December 31st, okay?
That's right.
You bet.
All right. True to form, even though I've read this, 18 times, I'm getting emotional, so, especially after hearing Susan. Okay. First, I want to say thank you to Elise for speaking tonight in our public comment. Woodland Meadows is also a very special place to me. I spent the majority of my time here in Saline as a teacher there, saw all three of my kids go through school there, and still have a number of friends and colleagues who live life there daily with their kids. So thank you to Elise for elevating student voice and for giving us her perspective. My own daughter, who is now almost graduating college, she's passed 2 of her 3 nursing exams this week, so headed to an externship in Columbus, of all places, at Nationwide Children's Hospital. I know my Hornet is going to be in Buckeye country, but anyway, so Woodland Meadows is also a very special place for me and my family. And whatever happens at Woodland Meadows, I know that Laura and her team are going to just be supports for that community and for those kids. So thank you for your care. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Esteemed colleagues on this board, exceptional staff and students, and dedicated members of our community. As I sit here today in my final board meeting as a trustee, I find myself reflecting on the journey we've shared. It has truly been a time of both remarkable achievement and significant challenges. Together, we have celebrated the triumphs of our students, the dedication of our staff, and the unwavering support of our families, while also confronting obstacles that have tested our resolve and commitment to education. In this complex landscape, I urge each of you, trustees, staff, students, and community members, to continue to consider the power of our actions and perspectives. Our behavior serves as a model for students who are watching us closely. They listen to our words, observe our reactions, and learn how we engage with one another. This responsibility is profound. When we encounter situations that challenge us, I encourage you to take a moment to pause. Instead of rushing to blame or foster division, embrace a stance of wonder and curiosity. Ask questions and seek to understand rather than to judge, recognizing that our individual perspectives may differ and that no single viewpoint holds. Hank is in my speech later, but not right now, Hank. Let me say, ask questions and seek to understand rather than to judge, recognizing that our individual perspectives may differ and that no single viewpoint holds all the answers. Approaching our challenges with curiosity opens the door to dialogue, collaboration, and growth, creating an environment where innovative ideas can flourish and every voice is valued. In this spirit of inquiry, we can truly affect change and nurture an inclusive and supportive educational community. Let us strive to be the neighbors Mr. Rogers would be proud of, embracing kindness, understanding, and compassion in every interaction. I want to express my extreme and sincere appreciation to my fellow trustees on the Board of Education. Your dedication and partnership has been invaluable throughout my term. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights, even when our perspectives didn't always align. It is through our diverse viewpoints that we have engaged in meaningful discussions and have made informed decisions for our schools. I appreciate the countless hours devoted to reviewing policies, examining budgets, attending events, and advocating for our students and community. I am proud to have served alongside such passionate individuals. A special thank you to the Gold-Jane family, the Gerby family, the Stebbin family, the McVeigh-Mitchell family, the Eastep-Jeffers family, and the Austin family for sharing your loved ones to do this important work. Okay. I want to extend a special thanks to Brad, the other K-12 educator on this board. From the campaign trail to our time at the table, I am grateful for your friendship and support. Your insights as an educator, union leader, parent, and former coach have enriched our discussions and decisions, and I appreciate the unique perspective that you bring. I know you will continue to be a crucial voice on this board, sharing your wisdom and expertise. My kids, your boys, and all the students in Saline are better off because of your work here. I also want to acknowledge Jess, and I'm going to say for her unwavering support throughout these past 4 years, and I look forward to taking her up on her board meeting watch party in the new year. Special thanks to the staff throughout the district and to the cabinet here tonight, and to the cabinet who's not here tonight too, for their expertise and pursuit of excellence that has put Saline on the map as one of the best school districts in the country. As demonstrated tonight, the future is bright because of your innovation, responsiveness, inclusiveness, and student-led approach. Hornets everywhere are thriving in this world because of each of you. A small thank you doesn't seem to fully express my gratitude for the work that each of you do. Thank you to Betty Yankee for her kind and gentle nudges and support during my tenure as board secretary, and I will try to stop and see you and Hank from time to time, because Hank is a special boy. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Superintendent Lodge for his exceptional leadership and guidance, especially over the last 4 years. I began my teaching career in 2001 at Heritage, where Steve was then a 6th grade teacher. Over the years, we have transitioned into different roles, and each step of the way, I've always admired his leadership and mentorship and commitment to education, qualities we can all aspire to emulate. Your vision and dedication have not only inspired the staff, but have also made a lasting impact on the students and community. You are leaving the district better than what you found. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to excellence in education, and I wish you all the best in your retirement. Most importantly, I want to thank my family. Your love and support and understanding have been my foundation throughout this journey. When I ran for this seat, you were my biggest whys. First, to my 3 kids, Allie, Drew, and Lainey, I am so proud to have had a front row seat to watch you all graduate, and now you're all successfully navigating college, largely due to your experiences with Saline area schools. I will always be grateful for the wonderful people who partnered with Dad and me to prepare you for all that lies ahead. And to Wes, thank you for your support, for supporting and encouraging me every step of the way. I appreciate the late dinners you prepared, the countless times you ran the kids around, and your patience in allowing me to take a quick phone call. Not so quick. Prepare, Darcy and Jason. Team Miller, your support and love means the world to me, and thank you for being my biggest cheerleader and reminding me of the importance of advocating and promoting education in our community, state, and country.
As I conclude, I leave you with the wise words of Walt Whitman. Be curious, not judgmental. Let this be a guiding principle for us as we move forward, together or separately. Let's commit to cultivating a culture of curiosity that inspires us to learn, connect, and grow, not just as individuals, but as a united community dedicated to the success of every child. Thank you for the privilege of serving Saline Area Schools. That's all. That's all.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I appreciate that. We will miss you and Susan at the board table. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the consent agenda as printed. This is your chance, Jenny.
All right, motion Miller.
This is your chance, Susan.
Support.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you so much. What's on the next agenda, Dr. Lodge?
The election of officers.
Correct.
That'd be a big deal. And then primarily the FIRST robotics teams and the esports teams, which will be a lot of students present for that. So
Wow.
it's going to be the
Wide-angle lens photographers. Thank you so much. Public comment. Any member of the public may address the board briefly for up to 3 minutes or request to be scheduled on a future agenda. We have 3 names, so I'll just read you off in the order that they've arrived on my table here. Tiffany Alexander, David Hayward, and Dave Rosenfeld. Please and thank you.
There it goes. There's really absolutely no shame in needing to improve. That's something that we all need to do as individuals, as entities, as organizations, as educators, as parents. But you cannot improve if you do not see room for improvement. And it is not enough to say, we can do better, but these are all the reasons we are great. When I hear in my head, it's a great time to be a Hornet, I think of the black students I talked to, of the 7 Middle Eastern families I've spoken to this week, of the multiple parents over the years of children of disabilities, and the LGBTQIA families. And they don't feel that way at all. I noticed that last year when you saw who got the merit awards, maybe it was this year, I have a terrible sense of time. There was not one black student, and not one person seemed to mention that except me, and it was a kind of a shrug. I guess that's because maybe everybody thinks black students are just too stupid? Or do you think that it might be because they don't have the same opportunities when they walk in the door? Because they don't. I've talked to several students this week from the Middle Eastern community, and some of the things I have heard left me rocked. Just rocked. You're marginalized families. We've seen people come up here and talk about how they felt what they've been through was racist, and the immediate response on this board was to turn and say, nothing you've done is racist. That's the immediate response. Not to reach out to the families or the parents or the students, but to comfort those who are being accused of doing such. And I take a look at that and I'm like, how do you expect your students to learn how to do better if you can't even listen to them? Your why should not be the students who are just excelling. Your why should also be the ones who are drowning. Most of them are never going to ask you for help, and the reason for that is they say that there's no point. Now I look at this Title IX thing, and I'm questioning in my head, is it just because of a lack of marginalized identities that this isn't clear? When we step into the future in January, the world is going to be a very different place. The law does not prohibit extending protections. It simply says this is the minimum, and the minimum is rarely enough. So when you set this precedent, as you have set, you've created a situation where if there are other protections in your other policies, they're null and void. And considering the amount of expertise this board and leadership says that they have, I can't imagine that that's an accident. There are so many opportunities to say this is what we've done well. I would love to hear accountability, SIC, on what you have not done and how you will address it.
Thank you, Tiffany Alexander. I appreciate that. David Hayward.
So with respect to the adoption of the Title IX policy, I feel that it is completely disingenuous to claim that you don't understand the policies, the problems that are raised by this policy. By passing this policy, you're effectively establishing Title IX as the ceiling for the protections that students are going to have, when currently it's the floor for those protections. And this is bad today because it threatens to invalidate any protections that current policies that go above and beyond the legal minimums give them. But it's even more worrying for the future as we contemplate what we all can anticipate will be detrimental changes to Title IX that are going to be coming in the next months. Now, maybe that doesn't worry most of you sitting at the table, because it seems like this is right now primarily going to impact trans people, and it's very fashionable to attack our community right now. But next year, it could be you and your kids whose rights are taken away when Title IX changes. So think carefully about what it is that you did tonight.
David Rosenfeld.
I'm a little worried about time, so forgive me if I read kind of fast. Okay, first of all, thank you, Trustee Eastep. We will be forever grateful for everything you've done for our kids and our community. Second, I wasn't actually planning to speak on policy tonight, but after hearing the discussion about the modifications to the non-discrimination policy, I decided I probably should. Specifically, the bit about the policy superseding other Saline non-discrimination policies has me quite concerned. I want to be sure that you all understand that the requirements of Title IX, Elliott-Larsen, and other federal and state laws are the bare minimum. They are not the maximum you are allowed to do to protect our kids. If other policies this board has passed provide even greater protections than those guaranteed by law, that is not only perfectly legal, it will often be quite appropriate and could very well constitute best practices in many instances. Take the transgender policy, for instance. When we were working with Steve to help develop language for that policy, Saline parents of trans students made it very clear that the protections guaranteed there needed to be rock solid and not at all dependent on what the particular laws are at any given time. We were very conscious of how the law can change, and we wanted to make absolutely sure that our kids would be safe no matter what. Let me try to give you a specific example to make my point even more clear. As they are currently interpreted by the applicable authorities, both Michigan state and federal law, including Title IX, give transgender students the legal right to use bathroom and locker room facilities that align with their gender identity. And this is a protection they are also afforded under our own transgender policy. Suppose, however, that the laws change at some point in the future such that that is no longer a legal requirement. Then what? The way I see it, if that very unfortunate state of affairs came to pass, we would be quite lucky here in Saline because we would still have our own transgender policy, which would continue to require the implementation of best practices. However, I really do worry that someone might read that supersession language in the Thrun policy and come to a different conclusion, and one that is not necessarily the intent of this board. So to sum it up, unless someone actually passed a law that forbids you to allow trans students to use facilities that align with their gender, you could still continue to enforce the transgender policy as it was approved. And you would be doing it not because the law requires it, but rather because it is the best thing you could do for your students, for the district, and for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I still have some time. Apparently, I'm allowed to respond on occasion. I will talk to our lawyers about that piece of language just to verify that you're on the right track. Because I mean, you obviously raised something very concerning, and we have some time before the next board meeting. I will promise you that we will try and get some insights from from our lawyers. Okay, thanks, Dave. Yeah. The next meeting, the next regular Board of Education meeting will be held on January 14th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting of December 10th at 9:28.
So moved.
Would that be
Support.
Susan Eastep?
Support. Should I do it like she did?
Support. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Good night, everyone.
Apparently no one's opposing closing this meeting once again. Thank you very much. And I get to tap twice. I don't know box tonight. I don't know.